Ghost Beast!
Ghost Beast.
Ghost Beast!
Hello and welcome to
Ghost Beast!
Horror Podcast. I'm Todd, joined by my wife Becca. Hi, Becca.
Hi.
I just noticed yesterday that you recorded yourself saying Ghost Beast and whispering and throwing it in there. While I was editing, I was checking each one because I was having issues with the files. I was like, what the hell? It's very cute.
It's been there since the beginning.
You have a very weird style of editing. Unpacking that stuff can be complicated.
Okay.
Anyway, so we watched I Saw the TV Glow, finally, directed by Jane Schoenbrun. Really hope I'm saying that right. But they also directed We're All Going to the World's Fair, which we saw a while ago and really liked. So we were really excited to see this and definitely did not disappoint. I thought this was incredible.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the funny things I want to talk about up front, because we're not going to talk spoilers. I think the discourse around this movie is very strange.
There's discourse?
There's always discourse.
Oh, that's true.
What are you talking about? But there are it feels like people, look, I'm just going to say it. It feels like normie cis people who watch this are I don't get it. It's not horror and it was very boring. And I feel like anyone who is adjacent to the queer community is this was fucking devastating.
Yeah.
This was so moving and emotional. And as someone who is physically adjacent to someone queer, I got it. It is something that I think this movie is very special.
Yeah.
I think I've also seen commentary from other trans people who are yeah, when I saw that the director is trans, it made complete sense. And but I don't even want to I feel like it's almost kind of dismissive, because one of the things this movie does that's so amazing, it is so deeply nostalgic, which I feel like is becoming a horror genre, the nostalgic horror. Because we also saw Skinamarink, and not going to get into that on here, but that's one that it hit for me, and it felt like it's that same kind of nostalgic horror.
Yeah.
But what I was getting at is that this movie, while it is unquestionably full of themes of self-identity, specifically for queer people, I think that it manages to be relatable and still stir that nostalgic feeling for anybody, even normie ass dudes like me. I got it. It was just so interesting how it works on so many different levels and manages to be so emotional and moving, kind of no matter what walk of life you're coming from. You just have to kind of get what it's putting down. And I also think the people, because I've seen a lot of people who are this isn't horror. And I think the discussion about whether this is horror or not is honestly a distraction. It's kind of irrelevant. We've already seen horror can tackle such a wide variety of themes. And when you're dealing with a movie where it's dealing with such a difficult subject, I think that this winds up being the perfect kind of package to put that in. It's one of the things that horror is able to do extremely well. So who gives a fuck about that whole conversation? What do you think?
I mean, in general, I loved this movie. This movie really took me on a roller coaster.
Oh, yeah.
I got very emotional. I'm already getting emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, it really, I can't stress enough. I really do think this is something very special. And I think I almost feel kind of sorry. I don't want to act like I'm talking down to anybody, but if this movie didn't hit for you, it does feel I don't know, it feels like you missed something special. Because the movie, I mean, without spoiling anything, it is very much about someone's kind of journey through their own self-discovery at this very young age. It's a very specific time in history. It's also it showed a specific time in your life.
Oh, yeah.
Because the thing that hit me so strangely, because one of the things with this movie, I did keep zoning out while I was watching it. It's not because I was losing interest or anything like that. It's because it was zapping these little nostalgia nodes in my brain that were making me remember things from my childhood that I haven't thought about in forever.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. That's the part that's so relatable about it, is how specific that is, because it's even things I think in the beginning the character was like 7 or something, and they're introduced to this television show, and the way they depict it as being like so adult and so mature with its themes, and it has like these horrific effects and everything that like are scarring to him, and it's he, right?
The actor.
Yeah.
But it's a complicated, the whole thing is a complicated journey there.
That, I mean,
Because
just to like sidestep for a second, this is something where I'm definitely not the person to talk about these things. I'm going to try my best, but I'm not. Go ahead.
Sorry. I feel like a lot of explaining the themes and stuff, I want to save for spoilers.
Yeah.
Because at the same time, I don't want to spoil the movie by also giving context. But I think it's safe to say, like, the main character, Owen, is genderqueer and trying to, like, figure that part of themselves out.
Yeah.
But I really don't want to get into any more than that.
Yeah, we can wait on that, but I just want to say, like, because we've talked about this before with movies like this. We love talking about this stuff, but it does sometimes feel like, especially for me, it feels like maybe I'm not equipped to really go into this. So I'm going to do my best. Sometimes it leads to me just getting nervous and not saying anything, but I'm going to try to really go through this on here and just know it's coming from a good place.
Yeah.
You know, like I try to understand this stuff, and I think there are relatable elements in this stuff, even for some ordinary straight dude like me. What I was getting at is, yeah, I feel like that was such a specific thing, because I remember seeing shows and movies when I was young that I was definitely way too young for, and my memory of those things was so extreme. And then when I go back later, I mean, a great example that I've been talking about is the TV like miniseries, the original one. That scared the fuck out of me.
Yeah, me too.
When I was a kid, it gave me like nightmares. It was like the scariest shit I've ever seen. And as an adult, I was like, oh shit, let me check this out again. And it was like, I mean, it was for TV, so there's no violence or anything. It's so tame and kind of silly. Like, I still love it, don't get me wrong. But it was so strange to me. Like, man, I remember this like just fucking me up, and it's like, it's nothing now. So that was such a specific thing that was like, God damn, like they captured that perfectly. And I think that's the thing, is like there is a heart to this movie that captures these kind of feelings perfectly in a way that's like so profound and so amazing. And I think that's the thing that hits the hardest for me. And even just the way that it was every part of like the way the world is depicted for this character when they're a child. It's like everything is blown up and different, and it really feels like you're seeing it through their lens. And it's not like they don't get super silly with it, or they don't lean into like, like weird imagery, and like there's movies that have tried to do this before, but this one felt so raw, and I don't even know how else to put it into words. Like it just really captured it in a way I don't think I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think, yeah, the debate about whether it's horror or not is just so distracting and takes away from everything it's doing. I think it's one of those movies that's at least like horror adjacent enough that I will consider it to be horror. I will claim this as part of the genre. No problem doing that. I think the last thing I wanted to get into before we just get into spoilers, something that is so core to this movie is the exploration of like figuring out your own sexuality and identity. And it feels very personal. It's like an interesting perspective on it that felt incredibly raw. Like I said, I think we'll go way more into it with spoilers because I don't want to like give it away here. But I do think like if you haven't seen this, I think there's so much in here that's relatable to anyone, especially if you're like millennial era, I think it is like very much like people who grew up in the 90s especially. But I think it goes beyond that. With everything that it does with identity and everything, I think there's something that everyone can associate with in this, as long as you are trying to engage with it. You know what I mean? Instead of just going there like, all right, it's a fucking horror movie. Let's see some crazy shit. Like it is an emotional horror movie.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe that. I mean, did you have any kind of final thoughts here?
I mean, aesthetically, this movie is also very beautiful, too.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely
this
should
is
point
like
that out.
100% my taste.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You were whenever you're doing visual stuff, it's like you're all about putting the like 90s filter on shit and
Yeah.
like random TV static and shit. So it's like, yeah, this is definitely very Becca coded visually.
I mostly am going to talk more in the spoilers because I feel like it has a lot of intertwining between my own queer experience and then what I experienced in the movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm going to be very interested to hear about that because it's very different from my experience. And yeah, I think that's the thing that's really at the heart of the movie, which I can empathize with, but I don't have that kind of personal connection to. But I'm excited to talk about this more because, yeah, this movie really kind of blew me away. So why don't we just get into spoilers? So, I mean, the thing that's at the heart of the movie really is the TV show. Like, what was the show called? I don't
The
remember.
Pink Opaque.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's
Yeah.
such a funny name. Do you think, was that TV show real?
I think it could be interpreted a lot of different ways. I feel like it was real in the sense that they saw their identity, like their true identity in the TV series.
Yeah. Yeah, I think honestly that question literally, it isn't even really that relevant whether it's
Yeah, it
real or
doesn't
not.
matter.
But I do think it's pretty obvious that the show, it kind of represents their exploration of their own sexuality and everything. And this is the part that like I think like I said, that's at the center of the movie, but it's also just so fascinating how kind of universal this theme is, because for them it was the way that they were introduced to the show by like an older person who was also going through their own kind of exploration of identity and sexuality and everything. And the thing about it is that on one level, it was, like I said, it's something I can relate to. Like seeing shows and movies that I wasn't ready for at that age, and as an adult being able to reflect back on like how that affected me and my development. And I don't think it's anything negative. It's not like, oh no, I was too young for that. I think it is one of those transitory periods in your life where you start to experience these things that are more adult. Because there's even things like I was really into the show Red Riding Hood Cha-Cha, which I've shown you, this anime show that like I thought was the coolest shit ever. It's like some magical girl shit like Sailor Moon, which is also, that was another thing that's funny is how, I mean, it's not funny, but the way he had to hide the show like from his dad because he saw it as like a girl show. And here I was waking up at like 5 a.m. to watch Sailor Moon. And like my dad probably thought that was fucking weird, but at least he didn't like do anything about it. But I think like there something that is relatable, especially for like 90s kids, is that it's the kind of time-worn theme of being raised by television, and so much of your life, like your exposure to more adult stuff came from like, it's almost like leveling up through different TV shows and getting exposed to more mature themes and stuff. And yeah, it's like the way that the show seemed so serious. Like there's stuff that I saw at that age where I thought it was like the most fucking epic story ever, you know, and like everything was so exciting and so like intense, and you watch it later and it's like, oh, this is just some kid shit. Like it's very simple and like one-dimensional. But that's how it is. Like, that's how your development is. And I, like, especially hit me when he saw that, like, ice cream man, and it was, like, that horrific special effect, which was really fucking cool. But it's, like, right away, I figured that, oh, that's probably not what's literally in the show. That's, like, his perception of it. And then, of course, when he revisits it later, he sees that everything is, like, super low budget and, like, kind of goofy and not scary at all. And that, like, man, that one hit me perfectly. Because I can absolutely, I think everyone can relate to that. But it was fascinating how in this context, they also kind of go into how this show allowed him to explore his own sexuality. And you start getting these glimpses of like other things he was experiencing with this friend, like cross-dressing and stuff, and how these wound up being kind of repressed. And that's also something that I think is very specific, that there are a lot of people, and there probably still are a lot of people who go through stuff like that, and then they just, push it down and live a quote unquote normal life and act like that never happened. And they're never able to fully explore that, which is incredibly tragic.
Yes.
It's like very heartbreaking. I think we made some progress. I'm going to hand this to you in a second to hear your experience, but it feels to me like, at least with the internet and like the way that all these different communities have popped up that allow people to more openly explore these ideas, that it's opening the door to people being more open to these things and seeing them as more normal. But it's still sad to see that this is kind of what it's probably like for some people, especially people from older generations when it wasn't as acceptable and what they had to go through. And that's the thing that that hit for me. It just made that feel so real in a way that I don't think I've seen any other media that has like impacted me in that way, where it just made it feel like these are all ideas that I already understand and know about, but I feel like I get it on this deeper, more emotional level. That's probably the most like groundbreaking part of this movie for me. But who gives a fuck about me? What is your experience with all this? Do you feel like talking about?
I feel like there's multiple levels to this film, and I definitely experienced a lot of different like emotional triggers throughout the film on different parts.
Yeah.
I think first of all, starting out as like being a queer kid and like not being able to express that is tough.
It's okay.
Because, I mean, unfortunately, I was not someone who came out until like years later in my life. And I think a lot of the experiences I had as a kid were repressed. They were stuffed down because it wasn't okay to be queer. Like, it didn't feel safe. And you do find these people, these safe people, and these safe communities where you can step out a little bit. But I really think it was really reflected in the film, like how isolating it can be when you have parents that don't approve, or other family members that don't approve, or kids at school. Yeah. That part was like very prevalent for me. It definitely took me back to like being in like grade school, and it makes me think back on the types of friends I had and the things that we did say to each other or that we left unsaid. I also think there's something to be said about like the depression that comes along with it. I think the Mr. Melancholy, like that is it is very sad. Like the Luna juice, I mean, I feel like for me it translated into obviously like medication and all this medicine that's for treating for depression or anxiety and things like that, when I mean the reality is that a lot of that depression and isolation and anxiety comes from like closing who you are
and from society making you feel like you have to live like that. Like I can't even imagine. It feels like that's almost like a Band-Aid for fixing something that wasn't really understood.
Yeah. I really have to give it to the film because it was like in every single part of it, there was just so much to be thought of, like self-reflected on. And that really got me too.
No, I agree. That was the thing that even hit for me, not having any kind of personal experience just like this. It still did make me reflect on my own growth coming up. And it's like I said, we haven't really, I don't think we really talked about it on here. We talked about it on our anime podcast. But like, yeah, it's things like Sailor Moon. I was so into like the magical girl shit. And that's a part of me that I actually look back at and I'm kind of proud, because there were some things as a teenager that I was pretty shitty about in a way that a lot of young males are shitty about, but that was something that like I just fucking loved that shit. I had like action figures. I was watching on TV. I was very openly into all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, good job. At least you did good with that. And it's almost like those things don't have to be tied to your sexuality, and maybe we can just enjoy media from all walks of life.
Yeah,
you know?
I think there is a huge thing to be said about weirdly gendering toys and media, and
That's a better way to put it.
It's unnecessary, and it's just another way we make children feel isolated. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. It does make me pretty deeply sad to think about how, the fact that there are still so many elements of society that just aren't open to these kind of discussions and still want to do whatever they can to repress these kind of ideas or to like demonize this kind of stuff. It almost feels like as some things get better, some things get worse. Because when you have like these online communities that are more welcoming and let people explore these things, then there are the online communities that want to do everything in their power to like strip away the rights of anyone different from them and stuff. And so it's the kind of thing where it's like we've made progress in some ways and we've regressed in other ways. But I would hope that there's at least a wider percentage of people who feel more comfortable exploring this part of their identity than there used to be. It just sucks that like we're moving so fucking slowly with that stuff. But the last thing that did hit me that was like devastating was the way that time passes in this, where it starts out in like these small bits and then all of a sudden it's like 20 years later. Like that was also pretty fucking real. Like that's another thing that's relatable no matter who you are, because there are times where it feels like there's so much happening early in your life, and then there's a certain point where it's like you're just kind of doing the same thing every day, and huge chunks of time pass by, and you look back like, I can't believe 20 years just passed. You know what I mean? And it showcases that so well. And that's one of the things that was very devastating for me. It's just made me feel so fucking old.
One thing that really, I think, hit me the hardest was there's a monologue that Maddie gives, or Owen's friend, when they come back. I think they're in this, like, constellation thing, and they're, like, talking. There's this light on their faces.
Oh, yeah.
The monologue that they give really struck me because it made me realize that, like, there is something to say about when you do finally come out. Whether for me, it was coming out as queer, but mostly to come out as trans in this perspective. That you really, like, shed away everything that you were, basically, before then. Like, it was this, like, weird mask that you had to keep on to just survive, to get through until you finally, like, feel like you can't not be who you are.
I think there was, like, a really interesting dichotomy between the two characters, because it almost does show, like, different paths down this journey, where the kind of lead character, the way that they explore these things when they're young and then kind of repress it. Because isn't it like he develops a family, and he mentions that he loves his family to death and everything. I don't think they even show the family.
Because it's not relevant.
That? Exactly. Yeah. But it just shows like that's the path they took, and they're happy. But you maybe wonder like what could have been if they had been able to be open with their own identity. And then Maddie is more like they have to leave and discover these things completely on their own, and it winds up completely changing their life in a different way. And that was another thing that was like very emotional, is that it feels like on both sides, it's not like everything wraps up happily and they just live, happily ever after either way. They still are both dealing with...
I know what you're saying. During that monologue where Maddie is talking about like how things kind of shed away after becoming who you really are, there's also the moment towards the end where Owen has like an egg crack moment and like screams, and like he's at that party and like and then he's like profusely apologizing to everyone afterwards. That really reminded me of when I finally came out to you. When when we were like engaged. And if I'm being honest, in that moment, it felt like if he doesn't accept this, then I have to accept that and move on.
Yeah.
And that was really hard, but it was something I had to do for myself.
Yeah.
And it sucks to think that my mindset was even there, but I mean, unfortunately, it's like it's a possibility. The person that I'm with could possibly not accept this.
Yeah. And of course I did.
Yes, obviously. We're married now.
I think that's something that's also like, I wouldn't say it's difficult to understand. It's that like I could tell you for my part, I remember when you did come out to me like that, to me it was like, oh, okay. Like great. Like, I'm glad you figured that out. It was like such a nothing thing. And then it was more later seeing how emotional that it made you. That's what made me realize like, oh, that must have been very difficult. And it shouldn't be.
No.
Because like, it's not going to make me think any differently of you. And it didn't. And that's really how it just should be in society, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, hopefully there's a one day where queer people don't have to come out.
Yeah.
You know, just be broadly accepted, but we're not there, unfortunately. I mean, honestly, even talking about, I know we don't have like thousands and thousands of listeners, but like even talking about my queerness on the internet, like, or in public is still like a muscle I am flexing.
Yeah.
Like I am still trying to be comfortable doing that because I hid it for so long.
Yeah, and I think that is also like maybe a little too universal of an experience.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that we should be moving past as a society. Do you have other stuff you want to say?
No, I love this film so much. I think is extremely important as like a piece of media that is out there. I think this also speaks volumes on how important queer representation is, not only just in the film, like how it was represented, but the film itself just shows like how important it is to have queer representation in media and in public, and it should be accepted just because younger people need to know that there are safe spaces for you.
Yeah.
And I do love the message that is literally written in the film that says there is still time.
Yeah.
Because I unfortunately, and without getting into details, I do know of someone in my family who unfortunately never got the chance to be out and proud. And that makes me deeply sad. It shouldn't be something that you have to hide your whole life, hide it all, but yeah, it's not okay.
Yeah, I think I'll wrap this up by saying that, I think this is a very powerful movie. I think the director did an incredible job of, I don't know much about their own journey, but it does feel like there's so much of this movie that feels so personal and that makes it so relatable. And I can't think of another piece of media that has like so accurately depicted this kind of identity crisis in a way that like I could really understand it on this like deeper level. And I think that's one of the most special things about it from my perspective. And obviously from your perspective, it's doing even more than that. But yeah, just amazing movie. Mm-hmm. Did you have anything other final thoughts?
No, I do. I love this movie. I think it's beautiful in multiple levels. It's very good.
Yeah. So you can go to ghostbeast.com for all our links. You can also search for Ghost Beast Pod, and you can follow Ghost Beast on Letterboxd, where we rank everything we cover. How the fuck are we going to rank this? This feels like a very strange thing to say, but this is weird. This feels like a very strange sentence to put out there. How about we put it below Aliens and above It Follows?
I guess that's fair.
Seems good?
Yeah.
That would put it at number 6 on our list. And you can reach us at podcast@ghostbeast.com. I guess I should start mentioning that we're on TikTok and YouTube with some videos. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can reach out and I don't know if you have if this movie, I don't know how to fucking say this. Was there another movie that maybe gave you a similar kind of awakening? Like, I would love to know about it.
Me
Sure.
or the person?
Just
You're like waiting. I'm like, are you waiting for me to answer?
I don't know how else to fucking say it.
Okay.
Goodbye.